Welcome back to Buffs and Nerfs. We have with us co-host Sam Hall. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Andrew Lanza. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am doing well. So for today's episode, I guess we were going to talk about our favorite year singular in gaming. I guess this is kind of like all-time favorite year. We're going to kind of phrase it in the context of what we were doing that year, kind of make it a little autobiographical. But so we were going to talk about that, our favorite year in gaming. But before that, we're going to, as always, do a little roundup in the news. So I guess the biggest news as of late was the outright cancellation. Well, not cancellation, but the stopping of the revamp of Anthem 2.0, or what were they calling it? Anthem.
I think you can call that a cancellation, by the way.
It's essentially a cancellation. The game was on life support. They're gonna keep it alive. It's a live service game. What was Anthem Next? I think it was called. Was it called?
Yeah, it was called Anthem Next. Is what they were referring to that. Yeah.
So, for people that don't know, I mean, Anthem had there was an expose about the development of the game from Jason Schreier from Bloomberg. Now he was originally
the Walter Cronkite of video game journalism.
Yeah, originally he was Kotaku. Now he's on Bloomberg. But anyway, having said that, there's a storied history of the game's development and reboot and kind of what they showed at E3. There was like this big kind of reveal trailer, and like the game wasn't even made, so the trailer was completely essentially fabricated. So it was supposed to be kind of like a Destiny killer, looter shooter, sci-fi, futuristic space Iron Man shooter.
Can I just throw in a quick sidebar here? Do you remember the trailer for that? Like specifically how it had that annoying kind of like
the voiceover.
Like, hey Jim, why don't you grab that? Okay, let's keep moving ahead, guys. Oh, we should come back here and explore.
And then you always have like somebody like cheer and stuff, and then there's always like some random girl that's like, "Cool, yeah, we're gonna do this." And then there's like, yeah, it's always
I'm
so
firing my rockets.
Yeah,
it's like whoever does that in a game. I don't think I've ever even in a fucking raid gone. I'm doing this now.
And then they'll like throw. Yeah, for sure you have. But yeah,
I'm terrible at raids.
But and they'll just like throw out like a random like fucking piece of slang. Oh, look at this guy, he's big. What a chonk, or something like that. You know what I
mean? Yeah.
But yeah, so like that trailer was just that's the one that I was talking about. It was just completely, essentially fabricated. Like that was just like CG, not gameplay whatsoever. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm just gonna say it was the video game equivalent of the Steve Buscemi "Hello, fellow students."
Yeah,
like for trailers.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the trailer looked sick. I don't know. I would disagree with that. The trailer fucking made me excited for the game.
What, you don't think Steve Buscemi looks sick? I think he looks sick.
I mean, he looks like anyway. Depends if we're talking about that meme or from like Boardwalk Empire. We're talking about Nucky. Anyway, so Anthem comes out. There's a story kind of like the beta comes out. We played the beta, and like that's what I played. I was like, oh, you know what? The quote beta. It was essentially the demo because the game came out like fucking 3 days after that or something like that. So they're not fixing anything in that 3 days. So the game, we played the beta. It was it was kind of fun. I was like, yeah, it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest thing was shooting your gun kind of felt like nothing. It was just like downtime, something you did in between your ability cooldowns. And like some of the abilities were cool, and like flying around was cool. I was like, all right, maybe I'll give this a go if there's anything deeper. And the game comes out, and all the reviews are it's not deeper. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give this a pass. Maybe they'll kind of tweak it, whatever. And it really just kind of never got better.
No, it's I also I think we were talking this before we started recording. I had the Origin Access thing there that I finally just canceled like a week ago. I completely forgot that I'm getting this thing billed like $60 every year or whatever it is. And I played the first 10 hours, and by first 10 hours of Anthem, I mean the first 2 hours. It was just like, this is dull. This is not interesting. I'd rather be doing something else.
Yeah, I definitely kind of watched a bunch of reviews on it. Like I enjoy watching the train wreck. I'm not gonna lie. So I watched a bunch of reviews on YouTube. So I've seen a bunch of gameplay and whatever. And it really just kind of seems like it was a game that was half baked. And I think in that kind of vertical slice of that how long do we play? I don't know. We played the demo. I played the demo for probably a good like 10 hours. That like it was out for
I feel like we did something like we definitely that weekend we solidly got into it. Like,
multiple days.
Yeah.
We definitely did like all the content, kind of grinded stuff out, like leveled stuff as far as we could. And I was like, yeah, that was cool. Like I had a good time with the demo, and I was, as I said, I'm like, it got kind of boring at the end where I'm like, all right, like I want to see what else this game has to offer. It didn't have anything else to offer. Anyway, so I like watching the train wreck. So I was interested in this game's kind of, story. So they say they're like, all right, they kind of, BioWare kind of admits that's, EA under, BioWare under EA, kind of is like, all right, this game, essentially is half baked. We got to like go back and fix it. So there was a small team at BioWare that was working on this Anthem Next, or this kind of like Anthem 1.1 or whatever you want to call it. 1.
I think they called it just Anthem Next. I think that was the last name it had.
Yeah, and there was like, it's been in development now for over a year and a half kind of thing. Yeah. And I think I heard it was only like 30 people, which 30 people sounds like a good team, but in terms of video game design, 30 people is like nothing.
Especially something that's as complicated and
exactly
like a AAA title, like 30 people is not a large thing. That's like the kind of people you have doing like live service updates to cosmetics kind of business.
Yeah, that's like a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
So they had there was kind of like an EA was it like an investors call or something like that? I don't know.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think it was on an investors call. They made the decision. They
made the decision where I think the team was kind of showing what they were doing, and like I don't honestly I feel bad for the people that like the 30 people that worked on it during this year and a half. I feel bad for the people that developed it, but it's like I don't fault them as a company. Like I feel like even if Anthem came back and was like, we have all these updates, like sure you're gonna get some of those people back that played before, sure you're gonna get a couple new people, but like how many more people are gonna like buy this game? Are you gonna put a price tag on this game? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, for me, first of all, when you said just said for the 30 people who worked on it and installed there, I thought you were gonna say for the 30 people who played the game.
No, it had a
solid community.
It
had a solid community.
Well, also I know they were giving the game away with like controllers and shit, and like literally like selling it for like $2.99. I remember seeing like fucking pictures on Reddit and shit, and like it's in a fucking bargain bin. It's all Anthem copies, and it's like $2.99, or like they're giving it away with fucking like any purchase.
I would say for $2.99, it's not terrible, but to sort of say one thing about the thing, so what they've done is they've taken the team that was doing Anthem Next and they put them on the next Dragon Age, and this actually Anthem had two impacts. One, that team being on the next Dragon Age, and two, I just read that they've removing the multiplayer from the next Dragon Age. Initially, it was going to be some kind of live service. I don't think necessarily exactly like Destiny or Division where it's all online, but there was always in Dragon Age Inquisition there was a big multiplayer component. And I'm like, great. You know what? Let's get more people working on Dragon Age and keep it a single player story. Focus on that. So it's kind of feel bad for people who like Anthem that they didn't get the thing that they were expecting, especially since the company said, oh, we're going to work on this and make it better. Like they were sort of given false hope at that point. But on the other hand, it's going towards a game series that I really like. So I'm sort of like, I think it's for the best in the long run, at least for me.
Yeah, especially as I said, from a financial standpoint, it's like, how many more copies of, like, they can't charge for this update. Sure, they can charge for cosmetics. So like, let's say, the game's a hit and then people are going to buy cosmetics. You'll have a few, as I said, you'll have a few people come back. You'll have a few new people that will buy it. But it's just like, how many more brand new, $80 copies or $60, whatever in the States, copies of Anthem are you gonna sell? So like I can see them being like, this isn't worth it.
Yeah, no,
it does suck for the people that bought the game initially, though.
Yeah, they definitely did a cost benefit analysis and like, listen, we can't dump this much money into another 6 months or year of progress just for something that we aren't going to make our money back, just even for this. Like, yeah, they basically had to cut their losses, and yeah, I think I'm with you. It sucks for the players, but it's not a shock when I heard about that.
And it really seems like Anthem was just like the fundamentals of the game, like the engine, the systems, the everything, the loot progression, everything it was built on was broken. Like it just needed a ground up overhaul, like almost like from everything. It just seemed like, again, I haven't played the game, so this is just from like an outsider standpoint. But it just seemed like it needed an overhaul in almost every way. Like it seemed to me like the fucking abilities and the flying seemed like the only kind of fun parts of the game.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Because they were fun. Like, when I played we did the demo, it was fun, but as soon as you get into combat, and it's like, use your powers, and like you said, shoot a gun. Also, all the guns looked exactly the same. It didn't matter what type they were. I don't know.
Yeah, and also it was like, so first of all, your abilities were on these huge cooldowns, and then you just kind of blinked away with your gun. So abilities were on, so the two fun things, abilities and flying, were both on these cooldowns. Because even flying, remember, you couldn't fly indefinitely.
Yeah, you had to fly through like a waterfall or something to cool yourself down.
Yeah, to cool yourself down, or you had to like land and just kind of like run around for a bit, let your like jets cool down or whatever. So it's like the two funnest parts of the game, flying and abilities, were on cooldowns that were just painful.
If you're going to add a cooldown to something that intrinsic, I mean, make it like 3 or 4 times the length they have. Make it be like, you know what? I have been flying for 3 minutes straight. I do need to take a break for 5 seconds. Not 10 seconds of flying stop, 10 seconds of flying stop. It was annoying.
It was really annoying. And then there was just things in the game where we talked about in other episodes where there was like, I think like 2/3 through the game, there was a door that was locked that you just had to then, to unlock the door, you had to just do arbitrary tasks like do 3 types of this mission, kill like 50 of this enemy, collect like 100 of this plant. And it's just like, motherfucker, like what a soulless, unimaginative, like time inflation for a game, like, you know what I mean? So
it seems to be a common thing though amongst a lot of
that was
live service games. Yeah, but I mean, like Destiny does that a lot with its quests, where it's like kill. Yeah, but on this one it was excessive, and it was also like it felt. My understanding, because I don't even think I ever got to that point, was it was sort of like, there's nothing else I can be doing at the side. It's not like Destiny where when you get an assignment like that, it's like, I'm going to go do Crucible, I'm going to do Strikes, and I'm going to, I have other things I can do to work at the same time. It was just like, go do this one repetitive task, and you won't progress in anything else. Yeah, no.
Yeah, you are 100% right though. Like that does exist in other games, but it's just like that game's content was already spread so thin.
Yeah.
That it's like if your content is good and you have these kind of like stupid little mini fetch quests, it's annoying, but you're like, whatever, the content's good. But it's like if the content's already so bad, like I remember I watched I can't remember what they were called. What were like the big kind of mission dungeon, like the strike kind of missions called in Anthem? Safe keeps or something like that, or anyway.
Fortresses? No,
I don't know. I don't know. I know somebody's probably listening, yelling at their
yeah, let's just move on from this.
Anyway, I watched the final mission on like YouTube, just like a playthrough of the final mission. It was so like lackluster. It was just like a standard mission. There's kind of like a cool boss at the end, and like it ends, and you're like, oh, like that's the end of the game, and then that becomes one of the safe keeps. I think that's what they're called, safe keeps. Anyway, whatever. And I think and like that was like the final mission. I'm like, wow, what a shitty anti. I mean, again, Destiny 1 vanilla final mission was pretty shitty too, but they, look at where we are now. Like arguably Destiny is, on the right path. That's another bit of information.
To be fair though, Destiny has had 7 years to get to where it is today. Anthem
but that's what I'm saying. But they still had to get past that first year is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They that's what I'm saying. Look at where Destiny is now after that first rough year or whatever. They've had multiple rough patches. Let's not lie.
Yeah, I would
but
say
like Anthem had like that first rough patch, and then they just kind of were like
they could never get over it. Like there just wasn't enough there for people to be engaged with. So
I think also it's like
R.I.P. Anthem.
Yeah, I think also BioWare like put out Anthem with like, I know it was like different BioWares, but it's like you have all these like sub companies in BioWare and stuff like that, like different places. But like for Destiny, like for Bungie, Destiny had to work. You know what I mean? There was no like, you know what, this one didn't work out, let's move on to a next one. It's like Bungie was like, no, they were committed to it. They're like, no, as like a future of this company, this game has to work. And now like we can segue into that a little bit with the new Destiny news this week, where they're committed to maintaining the franchise for years, who knows, like indefinitely. They're saying that like even after the expansions that they've announced, there's one more coming out, that now they're saying that is just going to wrap up the first chapter of Destiny. So they're 100% committed to this franchise for the long run. They made changes with the systems of the game. We talked about sunsetting. They've sunsetting. Huge news, massive news. They had a bunch of weapons that were going away that were redundant, were not as, that you couldn't make them as powerful. They made it essentially so those guns that were already sunset or like were already kind of not as powerful will stay not as powerful, and everything now that is of current level you can bring with you indefinitely. And that's a huge change. Gnawing Hunger, Falling Guillotine, fucking the Ikelos weapons, the Warmind weapons. So good. So, like, when I heard that news, I was so happy. There's so many good little pieces of information that made me so happy.
Wait, does this mean you're never going to stop promoting Warminds to me? And Warmind cells saying they're good?
Just give them a try. I don't understand. They cost...
maybe
they cost,
they should
like,
bring back sunsetting.
They cost like one... Like, a Warmind mod costs like 1 point on your armor. It's a throwaway thing, and you just make them.
I'd rather have nothing. No, I gotta look into that. I think I was thinking...
You've been saying that? You've been saying that for like 2 years.
And I'll get around to it at some point. Listen,
it's
man.
So easy.
I got a lot on my plate right now.
Oh my god. Anyway, so that's good news in the Destiny world.
Yep, that's great news for Destiny.
Not so good in the Anthem world. Also, there's supposed to be a Destiny TV show coming out. I know you said you weren't super hyped about that.
I'm like, okay, cool.
Dude, that'd be so sick. Picture like a Clone Wars, just like computer animated, like random
I don't think
stories.
it would be. Is it computer animated or live? Did they say it would be like animated or live? I assumed it was live, to be honest.
I don't think they specified.
I mean...
Okay, hold on. Let me get that out. Let me get my thought out. Just picture that. Just like a little random, like, storyline set at some point in the Destiny universe. Like, maybe like 100 years ago, maybe yesterday, maybe like 2 weeks from now, maybe like 1,000 years ago. I would love that. Just like a nice little, like, whatever, half an hour or 20-minute, like, Clone Wars bite-sized storyline. Love that.
Well, I think we've discussed this outside of the podcast. I like Destiny, but I always feel the storyline, how they've been presenting it as a company, is a little weak. So, you know what I will say? I'm interested to see what they do with a strictly narrative format. Like, I mean, there'll be action in the thing, obviously, because Destiny is an action-based game and stuff, so they have to bring in like fighting and stuff like that. But I'd be curious to see what they do with it. But I'm sort of like, I've just heard that they're making a thing, and I don't really know anything about it. So I think at best I can say is I'm curious to see it, but I'm not excited for it. I won't say that.
I don't know if it's just some like storyline, narrative. I don't know. That could be cool. I'd have to see what happens. I'm on board. I think Destiny has some of the richest lore, some of the coolest moments. Like, we're always like, it always, like, at least now, especially last 2 seasons, especially this season, it finally feels like we're playing the big moments. So many times you hear about these big moments in the Destiny lore where you're hearing about them from secondhand accounts or whatever, and like, flavor text, or like, like an exotic little blurb, like the blurb of a ship or something like that. And now, I don't know, I feel like that could bring them to life. Like, you can have just these little moments. Like, that would be so cool. I would love that. I'd be so on board with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to hear more about it other than the fact that it's a show on Destiny. I don't think Destiny by itself necessarily could carry a TV show. You would have to be doing something very specific and interesting with it.
There's so much. They have such a rich lore. There's so many moments that how about
yeah,
that?
But what are we going to be watching? Like, the History Channel presents the history of Destiny?
No, you literally just, like, okay, that's what I'm saying. Like, Clone Wars, like the Clone Wars TV show. Clone Wars TV show are just like 20-minute episodes of one random storyline from within the Clone Wars. So that's all it is. You have like the assault on what was the big battle? Twilight Gap. Boom. That's an episode. Like, one like moment, like some saboteurs trying to like get into Twilight Gap before the episode. That's an episode. The episode, there's that one flavor text where I think it was Cade 6 was like holed up with like a Fallen, and like him and the Fallen were like blasting on all these Vexes, like just like them two, and then the Fallen has like one bullet left, and then they kind of look at each other, and then the Fallen pulls on Cade, and then Cade has to shoot the Fallen, but he knew the whole time the Fallen like pretty much did like suicide by Cade. That's an episode. Like, just these little random moments throughout the whole lore would be so sick.
First of all, they're the Elixni. Second of all, in that moment with Cade,
audible eye roll.
And in that moment with Cade where he like thinks he's going for his gun, it was actually, I think I read a lore saying that it was theorized that the Fallen was actually like submitting to him, like kind of going, okay, you're cool thing, and then Cade,
it was like essentially like suicide.
Cade's a murderer.
No, he did it. It's like it was like suicide by Cade, because it was like the guy only had one bullet.
No, I thought it was, the way I read it, it was like the Fallen the Elixni Dreg was trying to say, hey man, we're cool. by giving him his gun or doing. I don't know.
Anyway, I'm paraphrasing the thing. The long story short is there's such a large, rich, deep lore that they can pluck out these little moments from any time. Even the new mission on the ship, you can have the whole lead up to that mission where that Guardian died. Like that could be an episode. Just random characters at random moments.
Do you think they would do it like anthology style and not like more of a like single story over multiple episodes?
Yeah, anthology style. Yeah, 100%. That's like Clone Wars. Clone Wars is like anthology style.
The sort of bite-sized narrative of Destiny would work better as an anthology series. I like I said, I'm not against the idea. I'm curious to see it, but I'm definitely not stoked or excited for it. I need to know more about what it's going to be before I can pass a judgment on a show based on Destiny. Because I find that adaptations of video game IPs never really goes great.
But at least it'll sell me on the first episode.
Yeah, I'd definitely be there day one, checking it out.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. We had a little Pokemon news as well. We've been long-winded about this already, so we'll just fly through it. Gone. I know. There's new remakes announced. There was a Pokemon Direct earlier this week on Friday. It is now Saturday, so yesterday, I guess.
Yeah, that checks out. Sorry, let me go to the internet.
Yeah. Friday
yes,
before
that's
Saturday
right. That's
confirmed. So there's Sinnoh remakes of Diamond and Pearl. What are they called? They're called like Shining Diamond and Brilliant Pearl or something like that.
I think that's actually it is. Yeah, I think I read something saying that. So was the name.
I have the page up here and I can't find it. It just says remakes of Shine. Anyway, so that's cool. I like those. I like those games. I played those. I remember. I had a flash card. Please don't arrest me, Nintendo. I had a flash card for the DS, and I played Platinum, which is like the third version of those games. I played those. I remember I played that in between the summer in between film school, year 2 and 3. And I just remember I had a blast with it. I remember I carried my DS around me all, like I worked that summer retail, and like I was addicted to this thing, man. I would sit there like on my lunch break, like eating lunch, playing Pokemon, like addicted. Like I would go out for a smoke break, be playing Pokemon while I had a smoke, like absolutely addicted. So I have very, very, very fond memories of this generation. So having said that, what's really cool about this announcement that they did on Friday was there's also a game that they are releasing called Pokemon Legends Arceus or Arceus. I don't know. I've heard.
I thought it was a hard C. I don't know.
Arceus. I think it's Arceus. Yeah, I've heard both, but Arceus. Okay. Yeah, I think in the Pokemon Direct they said Arceus. Anyway, I've also like you know when you like just have for so long like read a word and you just read it one way, and then when you hear somebody say it, you're like, oh, that's how it's said.
Ooh, yeah, that's a thing for me. Like, I'm surprised it hasn't happened a bunch already on this podcast.
So you have Legends of Arceus, which is it's essentially a demake? No, not a demake. No, I take that back. It's not a demake at all. It's like an open world. So it's set in the Sinnoh region where the new remakes are happening. But it is like it's supposed to be like an open world Pokemon game. And the footage from it looks pretty fucking cool. They're definitely taking a page out of the Breath of the Wild art style. It definitely looks like Breath of the Wild, but like a little bit janky. Like I know like the video they showed is like definitely like alpha kind of like
oh yeah, it was like proof of concept, kind of like here's a nice place, here's a guy, he threw a ball and he got a thing.
I hope it doesn't, because people said that about Sword and Shield and like the infamous trees in Sword and Shield where it's like they showed a tree from Sword and Shield and then they showed a tree from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time from 64, and the trees from Ocarina of Time for the N64 look better than the trees from, and people were like, oh, it's just, this is just proof of concept, it's just alpha, blah blah blah. Lo and behold, same exact trees made it, shipped out. So I do hope, you're right. I do hope it's, but I mean, we'll see.
I think the Pokemon company, it's not Niantic, right? That's purely, Pokemon Go is purely Niantic, right?
Niantic, yeah. Niantic has like essentially like has licensed out the Pokemon Go like franchise because they also do like other apps.
Yeah, but sorry, what I was going to say was that I think the Pokemon company addressing this Treegate, as we will refer to it as, kind of knows we can put out a game, we gotta polish it, and we do polish it, but as soon as it gets released, we're gonna sell like 1 million units. So they're not, maybe they were just like, it's a tree.
Dude,
People
even with
are
this
still gonna buy it.
controversy, about the newest Pokemon Sword Shield, about there's like Dexgate, like they blew away a bunch of the Pokemon not to use again. I mean, they've introduced a bunch back, but they got rid of a bunch. And then, this whole like this whole tree thing and like the whole 3D models and yada yada. It still sold like hotcakes. I bought a Switch to play it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm part of the problem. But this thing, it still sold so well. So they like you said, like they have no incentive. They have absolutely no incentive to innovate.
Yeah, because what my understanding is also, again, I'm not a Pokemon fan. I played the Sun and Moon, one of them, I think, the one for the 3DS.
Are pretty much my least favorite. Of
and it was like fine, but my understanding is like every game is pretty much the same. Obviously, different locations, different things, and some Pokemon come and go and stuff like that. But I think like they just have a pattern. It's like a Call of Duty in a weird sort, where they know that we have this basic fundamentals that have to be in everything. We could just sort of change the surface a little bit. I don't know.
Well, everything they always add like some new stuff, but then they take away all the new stuff from the previous generation. So there's always these like 3 new things. No matter what it is, it could be like some sort of battling mechanic, or like you have things like secret hidden bases. You have things, if you have Dynamax in the new games, you have Mega Evolutions in XY. You have all these mechanics that they introduce, but then for the next iteration, they always take away all these mechanics. So instead of always building upon the foundation that they've kind of put out, it's always like 2 steps forward. It's always like 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. Like they're always just like at the same. So the game, it has evolved over time. Like if you play like the first generations, you're just like, wow, I don't even know what these moves do anymore. Like you don't even know what a move does. You're like, hey, this Pokemon learned this move. You're like, I don't know what this move does. You have to like look it up. That's just one thing. Anyway, it's evolved, but it's just always they don't need to innovate. Is the long and short of it. As long as they put together a fun little game that people can play through, it will sell. So I think that now maybe that this franchise now, this Pokemon Legends franchise, maybe this little kind of spin-off franchise that they're doing, maybe this is where they're trying to evolve the gameplay, like evolve the mechanics. Like it still seemed like they called it now an action RPG in the Nintendo Direct, even though you could tell it was still turn-based. So that kind of threw me off. It's like a brand new action RPG adventure. But then like the battles look turn-based. But then also you can kind of like creep around and like throw balls at like free roaming Pokemon, which is cool. I mean, there are free roaming parts in Sword Shield. And those are definitely fun. But also it's like they're hailing like these new environments. Like, oh my gosh, we have these free roaming 3D environments where you can catch Pokemon. You can control the camera. It's like, cool. We've been doing that since like 1996. You know what I mean? It's like these mechanics that are like so groundbreaking. It's like,
it's just the same thing over and over, it seems.
Well, it's not even over and over. It's just, like these mechanics are in other games that you deem so like groundbreaking.
Well, from an outsider's perspective, as someone who just only like played one game, has a peripheral understanding of the others, it seems like they're all the same game.
They're very samey. They're very samey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it works and it's making them money, go capitalism.
It's making them money. They're the most profitable franchise in the history of the world.
Wow, more profitable than the Bible. Oh no, wait, the Bible's usually given out.
Yeah, I got mine from a motel nightstand. So
I have nothing to say. I actually do have a Bible in the house, and I don't remember where it came from.
Wow, I certainly don't. Anyway, moving along. So that kind of wraps up video game news. Was there anything else on your radar? I feel like that.
Outriders. I tried the demo.
Outriders. Yes, hit us with your initial thoughts.
My initial thoughts on Outriders. I will try to be brief because we are now halfway through the episode and we haven't gotten to the topic. Outriders is basically somebody said, hey, I like Division, but I wish I had the superpowers of Destiny, and I wish I was set in the world of Anthem. And it's weirdly a single-player game more than a multiplayer game. Like, I think you can group up and do missions together, but it has a very single-player vibe to it. Like, I strictly played single-player last night when I checked it out. And I'm going to say I'm curious about it. More curious than I am about, like, the Destiny TV series, that's for sure. But it's sort of... It doesn't... It was good and it was fine. The gunplay was okay and borderline good. One thing I do like though about this game is two little interesting things that it does. One, like Destiny, you have powers, but they recharge much faster. You're not like using your super once in a while. You use it really often and stuff like that. They have a recharge timer, but it's like you have the standard like 3 setup, like a left button, right button, then left button, right button combined. And as you level up, you can add more powers and stuff like that. And I found you use them a lot because they are the way to do it. And the gunplay it's sort of got that whole, I don't want to say Anthem because that's not right, but similar from using the same engine, Mass Effect Andromeda feel, which is actually not bad. It's not Destiny level good, certainly not, but it's like, it's solid gunplay. I'm like, yeah, a shotgun shoots chunky shots, headshots with the sniper, the SMG, like it's decent. But I'm basically sort of like, okay, I like what I saw, but when I woke up this morning, I wasn't like, ooh, I'm gonna get back into that Outriders demo. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna go play Assassin's Creed because that's my thing right now. Yeah, so I'm cautiously optimistic. Do you want the Sam Hall recommendation on Outriders? Wait till it's been out a month and see what people are saying. I like it, but I didn't love it. It didn't hit me as hard as like Destiny or other games have. But I am cautiously optimistic, but I am curious to sort of see, A, how long it goes, like in the sense of like the progression. Like was where I got into the plot point. I basically beat the first story boss. Is that halfway through? Is it like Destiny where it's like, oh shit, that's actually pretty far along, or is there a lot more to go? And I'm curious to see what sort of their end game is, whether it's raids or whatever. So long story short, Outriders right now I would say is a solid 6 game, borderlining a 7, but you definitely want to wait. Or at least I definitely want to wait until it's been out a month before I make a decision on whether to pick it up or not. But yeah, it's all right.
Honestly, I know I don't know what the end game will be like. Like that's always in a live service game. What my interest is in
100%.
is what's the end game like. Now the thing is, everything I've seen on Twitter, people are like, Outriders is good. Do not expect a live service game. It is not a live service game. So I don't know how much end game there will be. I feel like it will be like a sit down, like beat it in however many hours, and then you kind of whatever, maybe play with some friends for fun, but it's kind of like you put it on the shelf.
Well, when I played it, okay, so briefly, at one point I did a side quest before I went on with the main story quest, and I did the side quest, blah, 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 then did the main story quest, and when I came back to their base, their map is terrible, by the way. It is the most confusing thing to look at, and it doesn't really tell you where you are. Like, it sort of does, but you kind of have to do a lot of, like, oh, that corridor over there, I think, is this thing on the map. But I walked past
remember when Destiny didn't show you when you were on the map?
Oh yeah, crazy. It's annoying. But I walked past the place where I had started the side mission, and there was the quest symbol, but it was grayed out. And I think what it is like you can go back and do side quests again, and at higher world tiers. Because what you're doing is you're leveling up 2 things. You're leveling up your character level, like with the class that you choose, and you're also leveling up your world tier, which makes enemies harder. So if you're
that's not end game though. End game isn't playing old combat like over and over again.
Well, that's when I saw that, I was like, oh, is that what it's going to be? Basically, you rerun missions and just to get better loot to do the missions again on harder, which wouldn't be great. Again, long story short, it's weirdly came to my attention, like you said, as a live service, but also, like you said, I think it's probably more of a single player thing. I don't know.
Well, it's just like, I feel like maybe not a single player, but again, I haven't played it. But like,
single player,
maybe just like a campaign thing.
Yep.
Like you do the campaign with friends. You might do some stuff at harder difficulties for fun. But I think, I don't know. That's just from the vibe I got from what people were saying on Twitter. Is like, don't expect a live service game. One thing though too, fucking Bungie, hilarious. Whenever fucking Dark Rider servers went live, Bungie dropped their state of the game. Like, so hilarious.
Oh yeah, well, Bungie definitely would have seen this coming and said, okay, this is a competitor, we have to keep people off of it. And
that hurt them so much, because you think about how many people play Destiny, are like, sweet, like how many like content creators, streamers, YouTubers, whatever, that are, playing Destiny, that are like, super stoked for Outriders. And as soon as Outriders goes live, fucking Bungie drops this massive news. As I said, sunsetting.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all I'm saying. Just drops this massive news. Like, it's such a hilarious fuck you from Bungie.
Oh yeah, they probably were planning everything on that release
probably
months ago.
100%.
Yeah, and then they were like, well, when are we going to announce it? Well, we don't need to announce it right now. It doesn't matter. The the season's just started. Let's wait until Outriders comes out and then we'll announce it. But you know what? Honestly, I don't see why Bungie doesn't, when it sees another live service game coming out. This is a weird sidebar. Back in the 1960s, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles were the big competitors in rock music for the most of the 60s, like the mid to late 60s.
Don't forget about the Beach Boys.
They're not important to this. So what happened is like, there's massive record sales for both and they were in competition, but they actually talked to each other and said, oh, when are you guys dropping your album? We're dropping in May. Oh, you know what? We'll drop ours 2 months later. Or, oh, we'll drop ours 2 months earlier. So they never actually really stepped on each other's toes much, which is something I feel that Bungie, if it does get a significant competitor in the live service arena, would actually be smart to do. Just reach out to the guys and say, hey, you know what? This is when our season drops are. If you stagger, we can both make money out of this. But I don't know. It's just basically, I get why Bungie did it, but did the drop. I kind of noticed, I'm like, oh, big news before this thing comes out, but
I'm just saying hilarious, but also kind of like that's shitty because they're like a giant company and like who makes Outriders?
Oh, it's like People Can Fly Games. Oh, fuck. I meant to look up what they did in another game. Like when I saw People Can Fly come up, I was like, I played something else that it's not Deep Rock Galactic. I'm totally not going to look this up right now. Andrew? Talk to the people about things for a second.
Oh, it's Epic. It's fucking Epic Games owns it, but they're a Polish company.
I thought I'd played something that they...
Yeah, they've done like Gears of War. Yeah, no, they're huge. Fuck them. They're owned by Epic. Whatever. I thought they were like a smaller company.
Fuck them? Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
What, just because they're owned by Epic? You're owned by Epic, you can go to hell. Okay, I don't think I've played any of their games.
Epic Games bad. Don't you know? You're not a true gamer unless you say Epic Games bad.
They're all capitalists, so yeah.
Wow. All right, moving on from there.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna dive into our 38 minutes later.
Yeah, no, we
favorite year in gaming. So why don't you start us off, Sam Hall?
Oh, I thought what we should do is like go 1, 2, 3, then say the year kind of thing like that. But sure, if you want.
No, we didn't discuss that.
Oh, I thought that's how we should do it. Like, we should reveal at the same time. But okay.
1, 2... No, okay. Yes.
Wow. I'm just trying to bring some pizzazz to the table, but okay. So you want me to just reveal my year?
Frame it.
All right.
Like, fucking tell us.
I've talked about this year before. In this year, I was working on a film for a well-known Canadian director, and that's about as specific as I'm going to get. And unfortunately, I had a workplace injury that shattered my spine. So I was laid up for the summer, and then in the fall was walking again, all that kind of business. But didn't have a job, couldn't go back to the job I had before because it was a physical labor job. So I was looking for something to waste time with, and I got into video games. And in this year, I looked back when you suggested the topic. I was like, oh, this was one of the years that kind of popped in my head just because I was like, oh, you know what? I played a lot of video games in like the year after that before I started going back to school and stuff. And the year I have chosen is 2004, current era. And yeah, the games that got released this year, it was nutty. Every time I went to the Wikipedia page for the year, and I was like, oh, this game came out. This game came out? Oh, this one too? These games? Wow. Like, there are a lot of hits for me in this year. Do you want to reveal your year first before I start? Or I'm not certain.
No. You do your full year.
Okay.
You talk about it. I'll talk about 2004 afterwards.
All right.
But no. I appreciate that. But you continue, sir.
Cool.
I am engaged in your story.
All right, then. So, big games that came out this year. Half-Life 2, which Andrew has been gifted, and we'll be talking about those next podcast. I was going to say next week, but it's probably 2 weeks.
2004 is massive, by the way. I'm looking at the lineup.
Oh, it's crazy.
Fucking 2004 is
so we got
massive.
Half-Life 2, Doom 3, which was actually pretty good. It's nothing like the Dooms that you've played, but it wasn't too bad. But then we have things like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, my favorite Grand Theft Auto. Mm-hmm. Star
KOTOR.
Wars, Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines, a fantastic role-playing game. One of the best I've ever played on the PC. Tron 2.0, which I mentioned is a hidden gem. That's just a lovely game. Thief Deadly Shadows, which I like sort of the feel of that more than the first two Thieves, because the first two Thieves are very... they're very dated in how they feel, but they had better sort of gameplay mechanics. So Thief 2, Far Cry came out, the original Far Cry, which is very different from the Far Cries that have come out in the 17 odd years since. Like, it was this weird science fiction thing. You would make your way across a tropical archipelago And there were like mutant ape things that were attacking you because science went mad and wrong. Playing God.
Some like Dr. Moreau shit.
Yeah, Dr. Moreau shit. For all those people who didn't play PC games, Katamari Damacy?
Damacy, I hear? I always heard Damacy.
I'm going to go with that.
Damacy? I don't,
Katamari,
it's probably Damacy.
Katamari D came out that year, and that's a fun game. I never owned a game, like, it was this weird game that I played.
So good. I loved it.
I played a lot of it, but I never owned it. I remember around that time I'd be over at a friend's place or something, and they would have it, and I'd play a bunch, and then, you know, like, it's this weird game that I just never owned, but I actually got exposed to a lot. So
explain to people who don't know what it's about.
Oh,
what is it? What is Katamari?
Okay, basically you're just rolling junk to make a bigger ball of junk, and then you're rolling up the universe because your dad is sad and the king of the universe, and
the music is so good.
I remember the music being good. Yes, I guess it didn't stick with me, but yeah, I remember going like, oh yeah, it sounds good. No, it was a great game. Also, can I throw out a few games that I enjoyed of that year because I've pulled it up as well. Sure.
I don't know if you're gonna mention it. Fable came out that year.
Yeah, Fable came out. Yep.
Fable I played on that came out for the, I don't know if it came out for other things, but it was the original Xbox.
Hello, chicken chaser.
Oh, I didn't know what you were doing at first. I thought you had like a little seizure.
No, I just had a stroke right now. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
relative of mine have had strokes, so I shouldn't joke about that. Yeah, no, Fable was great. It's on the list.
Fable is so good.
I think I liked it better than Fable 2, or I never tried even Fable 3. Like, it was the best Fable was the first.
It's the only Fable I played.
Yeah.
I remember I borrowed my friend's Xbox for like a year or more. Like I borrowed it for like a while, and like I played like through all these Xbox games, and that's one of them.
Absolutely.
I also borrowed the same friend's GameCube, and another game that came out in this time frame in 2004 is Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. That came out, and like that is such a great game. Sequel to the Paper Mario on the N64, which is a spiritual sequel to Mario RPG. That is a ton of fun. That game has so much heart. It's turn-based RPG, but it's action turn-based, where you have to kind of like almost do these like little mini games every turn for like different attacks. So much fun, and it's Nintendo, so it's just got that polish.
Yep. I didn't have a Nintendo, so I wasn't really exposed to Nintendo games at the time. Another great game from my list that came out that year is a sort of the sequel to a sort of another game that I loved, The Getaway 2 Black Monday. Now, I'm kind of cheating on this one because it came out in Europe in 2004, but then came out in North America in 2005. So I'm going to call that a 2004 release. And I loved the Getaway games. They were fantastic. Like, you're basically in a serious Guy Ritchie mobster movie. Not Guy Ritchie's a little too comedic, but like, you know, London gangsters, and everyone's going like, oh, are you having a laugh? And then shooting people. It was great. So 2004 was definitely like this great year of games. I've played through a whole bunch of the games on here, and I don't usually finish video games. The only video games I haven't finished from this list, I think, is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines has a fight at the end where you have to fight Asian vampires who are giant squid mollusk things, and that fight, when I got to it, I don't know if I was underleveled or unprepared, but I never got past it. I remember going like, okay, you know what, I know this is basically the end, I can't go any further, I keep dying here. But yeah, no, 2004 was my year for video games. It was when I was recovering from the injury. I didn't have a lot of money, so I was basically spending what little money I had on just games, food, rent, even to a certain extent, though. Yeah, no, it was a hell of a year for me, spinal injury wise, but it was also a great year for video games. And Sid Meier's Pirates came out, which was a remake of their 1980s game, and it's not a very deep game, but it was a lot of fun. So yeah, so for me, 2004 was a great year in video games. When I say, I don't want to say it's the greatest year, because there's other games I love more than games on this list that came out in different years, but
that's the whole podcast topic, is greatest year.
Yeah, but you can't really say that. You can't, like, because
for you, it's your greatest year.
I mean, okay, then I'm gonna choose the year that like Mass Effect 2 came out, because that was the greatest video game I played. Like, it's one of the best years, I think, is as far as I would go with it. But yeah, no, it was great. Like, it was just a constant stream of great games that came out that year, and they were all fun. And like I said, the weird thing about me is I don't finish video games. I get bored with them after a while. But almost all the games on here, this list I have in front of me, I finished. So Fantastic.
Two of my favorite games also came out around this time, of all time. So one of my favorite games of all time, Metal Gear Solid 3, came out in this year. Now, Metal Gear Solid 3 is probably, out of all the Metal Gear Solid games, it is probably the best Metal Gear Solid game, like video game. It is probably the best game experience. Now, Metal Gear Solid 1 is, I think, more revolutionary. Metal Gear Solid 2, I think, has a more kind of nuanced storyline. It might kind of be considered some of the best, narrative. If that's controversial. But anyway, I think number 3 is probably the best video game. It's been remade a few times. The original dropped and you couldn't control the camera, and that was really frustrating in a predominantly jungle environment. And they fixed that with Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, where you could control the camera, and that made the game a lot better, especially when you're sneaking around. I would almost argue that this game is borderline once you are able to control the camera, like it's almost impossible to go back. Another game that came out at this time, I was predominantly a PS2 gamer, so another game that came out on the PS2 exclusively is Sly Cooper 2, which was called Sly 2, and what was it called? I don't know. I had it up here. Oh, Sly 2 Band of Thieves. Sly 2 Band of Thieves went more of an open world kind of concept, while the first game was kind of like you went to these little hub areas and then you went into these little kind of side little levels from the little hub mission. Very standard kind of action platformer genre trope, where the new game was you would go to, there was, I think, 5 different giant huge maps. There would be Paris, was the first one, and you're on this giant huge map of like a cartoon Paris. You're Sly Cooper, a cute little raccoon like crime robber guy. You have a huge team, or you have your team of Bentley and he's a turtle, and then the hippo Murray, I think is his name. And then they bring their own little kind of unique thing to the their skill set to the missions, and you're doing missions on this giant world map, and each map is so you do missions on the map, and then there's a lead up to a giant heist at the end of the level, which is you do this giant heist and then you move on to the next map, which I believe there's one in like Texas or something. That could be Sly 3 or 4. I don't know. That was Sly 4. Anyway, there's a bunch of different, they're all getting jumbled up in my head. There's a bunch of different locales, and they're each giant maps, and you do missions on the giant map, which lead to a giant final caper in the final mission of the map. Tons of fun.
Yeah, no, it was a great year for games. What was your year?
My year, it's a little bit actually before that. So in 2004, how old was I in 2004? I was 25? No, 20. I was like 20. I was like 19 in 2004, I guess. Anyway, so my year, I was in grade 8 / grade 9, and it was 1998, so I guess I was like 13, 14. So 1998 is the year of gaming for me. This year, I remember I was in a class where I was because my school had different, so you'd be in grade 8, but then you'd be in different sections. Mm-hmm. So I remember I was in a section, and I didn't really have any friends in that section. Like, I had friends that were in other sections, like, that you had from other, like, previous years and stuff like that. But in my section, I was just kind of like, I don't know, I just didn't have, like, many friends in my section. I don't know, I just kind of got, not alienated, but I just kind of, I became very, like, I didn't, I guess socialize, a bunch is the easy way to put it. And I definitely kind of turned inward, and I started, I don't know, I guess at this time too, I became very, what's the word? I guess like hyperactive. And I kind of like in this class, I had to like sit by myself.
Oh, wow. You were like, Mr. Lance, you're going to sit in the corner away from the others.
I was disruptive. I was disruptive. Like, I wasn't a bad kid, but I was just disruptive. I was just fucking loud and just disruptive. So I had to like sit like at the back by myself, and like I just remember like at this time I just kind of like became kind of like more turned inwards, and I played a lot of video games. And at the time I played a lot of like Super Nintendo games. I got more into turn-based RPGs, which Mario RPG started that, and then I played Chrono Trigger a lot back in the day, and these were games that I kind of could focus on. not a lot at that time, I guess, could keep my attention. Like I wasn't, I guess, watching a bunch of TV shows or movies or whatever, but I could play fucking hours upon hours of video games.
Mhm.
So, again, it's not like I didn't have any friends. Like I still had friends. I still like played with friends and whatever and like did stuff outside and whatever. But, I became at this time a little more increasingly kind of like focused on video games. So there were games at this time. So 1998, games like Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time came out. Metal Gear Solid. Pretty much one of the biggest reasons I wanted a PlayStation at the time was to play Metal Gear Solid. I played it I played the demo where you were in the initial opening part and then you went up where the helicopters and stuff. Other games like Resident Evil 2 was a huge one. You had what else? What else was massive? I didn't play a huge amount of PC games, but one of the PC games I played a shit ton of was StarCraft. Was the original StarCraft.
Right, yeah.
I never played it online because
I wasn't an RTS guy for the most part, but I played it a couple times and I remember saying, yeah, it's all right for a genre I'm not big into.
Yeah, so I didn't play it online, but I love playing it, just locally, just the storyline campaign, the Terrans or the Zergs or the Protoss or whatever, and just like, fucking around just with those, just making huge fleets. I remember I had like a Terran Marine action figure that I like stuck up by the computer
as a good luck charm.
Yeah, just a little, this little guy. It's pretty sweet. Other games like N64. I never owned an N64, but I played N64. I played at friends' houses. So like I just said, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Another huge one was Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Came out that year in '98. Star Wars Rogue Squadron was a massive game for me. I loved Star Wars, still do. That game was the first game I played. Like I played some of the older ones like X-Wing and TIE Fighter and like X-Wing vs TIE Fighter, and those games are very slow, very monotonous. They're not arcadey, and like God love them. I those games are super well made. That's just not for me. I want something more like a Rogue Squadron, a little more arcadey where you can pop in there with your controller and just like fly around, do some missions. They had some missions kind of.
I played a bit of Rogue Squadron actually on a friend's GameCube, and I remember it was really good.
GameCube, or this was 64 GameCube. There were Rogue Squadron 2 and 3 were for GameCube.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of those then. Yeah, I definitely was on a GameCube, so okay, I'm thinking
those ones are more advanced. Like,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, those are sick games. Those are definitely more advanced than the one for 64. But the one for 64 was sick though. I definitely had a good time with it. What are some other games? I'm just like scrolling down the list here.
Yeah, I can throw in my 2 cents about this year.
Yeah, please,
1,998 years since Zero. It actually has 2 big games that I love. Baldur's Gate and Fallout 2, both classic role-playing games for the PC, came out that year. They were fantastic. They were still based on the AD&D 2nd edition rules, so compared to today's D&D, they'd be crazy annoying to play probably, but they were great games, good writing. I just did the same thing while you were talking. I was listening and also scrolling through a list.
Yeah, for sure.
Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, I love that for the N64.
Yeah, that's another good one for 64.
And there was one more. I remember I saw one more. I was like,
Half-Life. I know you probably would
did Half-Life come out that year? I didn't see.
Yeah, 98 Half-Life 1.
Yeah. The Wikipedia, I went to the H thinking, did Half-Life come out this year? And it did. Oh wow, I totally stopped over that. So Half-Life. And the original, that was it. The original Thief, the Dark Project, Dark Project was the one there. That came out that year. So it was a great year for PC games as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like we said, StarCraft as well. So that came out that year. I'm just looking at the games.
Also there was a game there I saw on the list that I remember playing a ton of in this list. Yes, and 1998 was the year that Microshaft Windblows 98 came out. It's a link here in Wikipedia, and I'm not going to click on it.
Microshaft Windblows.
Well, wind blows. There's no D.
But yeah. So also, like I glazed over it, but like I've mentioned a million times, but Metal Gear Solid, the first one, came out for PS1, and I love that game so fucking much. Another game that came out in your year, 2004, was the remake of Metal Gear Solid 1, which is Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes for the
PS2.
Oh. No, I thought you were going to interject.
Oh no, I was just gasping at the fact that there was a connection between these years, 6 years apart.
No, so there was the only remake of Metal Gear Solid 1, which I'm surprised there hasn't been a true remake of it yet. Well, I mean, this is a true remake, but it's an HD remake of Metal Gear Solid called Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes on the GameCube, which is like it's not. it adds like first person shooting, which you didn't have in the original Metal Gear Solid, and the first person shooting really kind of trivializes a lot of the fights. It just, I mean, not that you're fighting with that with a lack of first person shooting in the first game, but you can just when you're playing Metal Gear Solid, and if you can when you can go first person at any time, like you can just pick out shots like so easily. Like you don't have to like line up your sight line and whatever like around a corner. You can just like turn around a corner and just pick it up. Like I don't know, it just trivializes a lot of the boss fights and a lot of like the fights. You can just like pull out a sleep tranquilizer and just like trank everybody in a room.
Well, originally it was third person, right?
Third person,
yeah. No,
it was 100% third person. Except, well, sorry, not 100%. You could go first person with goggles or a sniper. That's it.
Right, yeah, definitely making a switch from third person to shoot somebody to first person. It would definitely be
you press a button. You press a button to go first person.
Right.
So it's like you're always third person, and then you hit R1, I think. Anyway, or you hit R1 or L1, or it's on the GameCube, so like whatever. You hit a button to go first person, and then you like you go first person. You can see your gun there. I don't think you can move, but then you can just like pick out your shot and then go back to third person, and then like keep running around. Go to first person, pick out your shot, go back to third person, keep running around. So definitely trivialized. So anyway, so that was 2004. So I meant to mention that when you were talking about your things, but whatever. There's a million games that came out that year. It's hard to mention everything. But anyway, so I would still love to see eventually a remake of that, although now it sucks because Kojima is no longer affiliated with it because it's still Hideo Kojima was the original director of the series, who now started his own Kojima Productions studio because he has unceremoniously him and Konami, who own the current Metal Gear franchise, have had they had a terrible split, and there's bad blood there. So anything that's Metal Gear is tainted now that will ever come out from Konami because Kojima is no longer affiliated.
Should they even call it Metal Gear without Hideo? What was his last name again?
Kojima? I only said it about 4 or 5 times there, but okay.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so I mean, Metal Gear Solid Survival is the only game that's come out since then, and it's been
the best Metal Gear game, right? Yeah. No, I played that. That thing was way better than Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, Phantom Snake, Metal Gear Wheelchair, Metal Gear, the Black Donnellys from that show. All
right, I'm gonna wrap this up here. You're gonna just keep going.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, and then this year there was also a few other like platformer games that came out. Like it was like Spyro the Dragon. Medieval came out as well. I remember getting Medieval back in the day. I remember I was just like chilling at home one day, and my mom came home from work, and she's like, "Oh, they had this like bundle of Medieval and a controller at Walmart. I bought it for you." I was like, fucking massive. That's so huge. So I played the shit out of Medieval.
Mom like that?
No, I would never. I was flipping massive. So I got a nice little Medieval 2, and like it was a shitty controller though. But whatever. Nice Medieval. Sorry, was that Medieval 2 that I got, or Medieval 1? Anyway, whatever. So yeah, and then there was some other good games. Twisted Metal 3 came out that year. As I mentioned, I think I mentioned Resident Evil 2 came out. I remember playing a shit ton of that. I didn't own that game, but I remember playing it at my friend's house. I would go over to his house and watch him play it for hours and hours and hours. Just blown away that this was even a video game. Like I couldn't even believe it. Like that and Metal Gear Solid 1 were really like eye-opening experiences. Like holy shit! Like video games are like a movie now.
Yeah. Trying to remember. Recently, Twisted Metal came up in the news because that's it. They're making a TV show about it.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. So.
Oh, do you want to before we move on? Do you want to drop out what Twisted Metal is?
Oh, sorry.
Just in case if people
if you haven't played Twisted Metal, sorry. Twisted Metal is basically a third-person driving game. It's like a demolition derby where you drive a car, but every car has. First of all, they're all unique. Like they have weird themes, and it takes place in. Not a full-on dystopia post-apocalyptic, but like a dystopian future, and it's like everybody's killing each other for prizes, and cars have guns and weapons, so if you just chase around each other over
and like each car and like driver has its own like personality.
Exactly, kind of. And one of them, and I think it was Twisted Metal 2, I don't think it was Twisted Metal 3, I played a ton of, and yeah, they just...
One was bad, 2 was good, 3 was actually like okay, like getting there. Like it was.
I might be thinking Twisted Metal Black, which is after it. I don't know. I know one of the Twisted Metal games I played a ton of, and I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, no, there was an announcement recently that they're making a TV show about it. So
that's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah. No, that'll be. Again, I kind of as good as be. I'm like, cool. I want to know more than your. I want to know what the framing is. Like, oh no, you know what? I do know more about it. Actually, I do remember it's like some guy is driving across America to do something my guess is bring or like I have no idea. I can't remember what they said, but yeah, driving across a post-apocalyptic America, and I'm assuming Sweet Tooth is going to be a villain and not the main character. So that would be a bold choice. He was the clown in Ice Cream Truck.
It's like a Sweet Tooth prequel.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. That'd be cool if that's the twist that turned out. Anyway, so we're gonna wrap that up. We're gonna be back next episode with our reviews of our games that we bought for each other.
Mm-hmm.
I bought Beyond Good and Evil for Sam,
Mm-hmm.
and Sam bought me Half-Life 2. So we're gonna have in-depth reviews on those games, along with all your video game news that you always tune in for. That we always semi-know the approximate news about. So
we really need to take more notes.
Hey, we have approximate knowledge of some things. But yeah, having said that, as always, please, like, subscribe to this channel and the Mind Refinery channel in general. We just dropped a new episode of For the Love, a new series on black chefs and chefs of chefs that are of minority in on our YouTube channel. So you can just search for Mind Refinery on YouTube. But as always, I'd like to thank Sam Hall for joining us for Buffs and Nerfs.
Hey,
and it was
it's good to be here.
It was great learning about your 2004.
Yeah, it was a hell of a year for me physically, but video game wise, I couldn't have been happier. But yeah, it really still sucked as a year for me. But it was great video games, but it sucked.
And on that note, thanks so much, man. Have yourself a great night.
Yeah, take care, everybody.